Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, good morning.
Good
Morning.
morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. For those who don't know me, my name is Sharice Bell. I'm the Public Information Director here at the Commission. Um, our Executive Director, Dr. DaCosta, was unable to attend the beginning of this meeting, but hopefully she will be able to join us. But on behalf of Dr. Dolores DaCosta, I would like to welcome you guys to our June African American Affairs Advisory Committee meeting. And now we'll turn it over to our program coordinator for African American Affairs, Ms. Ashley Owens.
Good morning, everyone.
Good
Thank you
morning.
guys so much for taking the time out today to join us for our call. Just a few updates, kind of what's going on in the African American area. So right now we are actually starting to gear up for Black History Month. So if you guys and I can speak to you more offline of kind of what the agency and what our idea will be for Black History Month. We're looking to do a few community events. Um, also, Jasmine will speak about it a little later. We have the South Carolina Minority Business Summit coming up. We are getting ready to plan for our physical year next year. So if you guys are knowing of any events or any partnerships, sponsorships that you would like for us to partake in, please email me or call me so that way we could go ahead and get that on the calendar and get that scheduled. I do have a legislative update from Branton Brown, our chief of staff. He is actually out, but he did give me a little something to report to you guys, and it's relating to the critical race theory bill, H3728. That bill is being debated currently in the conference committee. Also, something else that's affecting the African American community, the AP African American Studies course will no longer be taught in the state's public school. So that is something that we are currently facing and we are aware of here at the agency. So just something for you guys to kind of keep a lookout for. But that was it for me as far as programmatic updates. I will go ahead and turn it over to Jasmine, and she's going to brief us about the Minority Business Summit. And then following her, we'll have Ms. Norma Lynn Brown. She is the CEO and founder of Lynn Brown Expires, Young CEOs and Leaders of Tomorrow. She's going to give us an update of what some of her young leaders are working on, and then followed by Dr. Fenton, and he'll give us a quick overview of his latest research brief.
Thank you, Ashley. Hello, everyone. My name is Jasmine Goodwin. As Ashley said, I'm the Smaller Minority Business Program Coordinator here at the South Carolina Commission for Minority Affairs. Very excited to share more with you about our upcoming South Carolina Minority Business Summit that will be taking place Thursday, June 27th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Brooklyn Baptist Church. It will be their Christian Learning Center building, so it'll be right across from the Brooklyn Banquet and Convention Center. It's going to be a full day of insightful workshops, panel discussions, and also just networking opportunities for minority business owners in the state. We have some really great speakers and presenters from a lot of our agencies and organizations that we work with, from SBDC to SC Community Loan Fund, and also panels that are going to be discussing demystifying access to capital, as well as just success strategies for small businesses, minority small businesses in our state. So again, that South Carolina Minority Business Summit is Thursday, June 27th at the Brooklyn Baptist Church, their Christian Learning Center, from 9 to 4 p.m. And I'll also be sure to drop a little blurb and flyer in the chat with the registration link. I ask that you would just please share with your network, your community, as well as any minority business owners that you think should be in the room. We expect a great turnout. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jasmine, for that update. And now we'll turn it over to Ms. Norma, Ms. Brown.
Good morning. How's everyone doing? It's so good to see everyone. My name is Norma Lynn Brown. As I always say, I'm the proud CEO founder of Lynn Brown Inspires Young CEOs and Leaders of Tomorrow. We encourage and we inspire young people in grades 4 through 12 for economic empowerment through entrepreneurship. So first of all, I want to thank all of you for all of your support. Just want to share a couple of things that we have done or doing now. First of all, we participated in Midlands Gives. And if you gave, we want to thank you so much. Our goal was $13,000. We doubled that. We did $15,548, and we placed 65 out of 612 nonprofits. We had 94 donors, and we won the African American Philanthropy Give Black Prize of $1,000. So we doubled our goal of $16,000. Thank you for your support. And then one of the banks, United Community Bank, gave us a donation of $2,500, and from Greenville. So we will kick off our camp next Monday, but on Friday we will have a financial Friday, and we're taking a busload of the young CEOs to the bank, and they'll have a tour for them and a couple of workshops. So we're excited about that, to go and visit our sponsor. And the next thing is our big thing. We have our Shark Tank. As I said, Monday starts our two-week young entrepreneurship camp. We do it for grades 4 through 12. We have 24 students, which is our max. At the end of the 2 weeks, the young people present their business plans to judges. And what I want to do is to invite every one of you. And I think I gave Ashley the flyer. It's July the 28th. I'm sorry, it's June the 28th from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock. So we start on Monday. We go 2 weeks, and at the end of the 2 weeks on Friday, June the 28th, from 9 to 1, we will have our Shark Tank presentation. It is free. We would love for everybody to come to support our young entrepreneurs. And we do things all year. We're doing a couple of Juneteenth. We're having pop-up shops, and we do that all year. So it's called the Young CEOs and Leaders of Tomorrow. We have about 50 or 60 members right now. So we're adding 24 new ones on this next week. I'm excited to say, and I think Ashley mentioned this, in 2025, we will be opening our charter school. We've been working on this for about 2 or 3 years. The name of the charter school is going to be a middle college. It's called Aim High. The A stands for arts. I'm proud to say Kristen Greer from New York. She has been in Broadway, done a lot with the arts, and she's now currently a charter school principal. She will be the principal of our charter school, and she'll be moving here this summer. So we're excited about that. Of course, the I is for innovation, which is entrepreneurship. I will be doing the School of Entrepreneurship within the school, and we're excited about that. So a lot of the things that we're doing for the young CEOs will be part of a curriculum for the innovation. And the next part, the M, is media technology. We're going to have a lot of updated technology. Dr. Ryan Howell from Michigan is actually designing that curriculum. So we're very excited about that opening in 2025. We're got several locations we're looking at. So prayerfully, we'll be able to do a location very soon, to share a location very soon. We'll be starting very small because we do plan to build. So we want to be at a location for a couple of years, and then we will build our own building. So that's kind of the update for us. I thank you so much for your support, and I pray that we will see all of you at the Shark Tank in the next 2 weeks on June the 28th. And as I told Ashley, we'll actually be in the we'll actually be in the Christian Learning Center that Thursday. So maybe, I'm not sure how we're gonna coordinate that. That'll be their last day and we'll be practicing for the Shark Tank on that Friday. So we'll see what we can do to maybe bring a couple of them before you. And that's all I have. Thank you, Ashley, and thank everybody else for your support.
Thank you, Ms. Norma. And I do have an update for you offline about the Small Business Summit. Jasmine and we talked yesterday, so I think we've worked it out so that way we can have a few of your students come over and present. So it should work out well. All right, and now we're going to move over to Dr. Fenton, and he's just going to give us an overview on his I think it was the April research brief.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Ashley, for providing us with a space. Let me share my screen real quick. Everyone can see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So yes, the Future Citizens research brief, which was published in April, examines the changing demographics of public school enrollments in South Carolina. That's mostly what we do, but we also examine in totality the number of students that are enrolled in schools in general, and private and charter, as well as homeschools to a lesser degree, primarily because we don't have any racial or ethnic information about the homeschoolees. But for private schools, we just don't have locations. And for charter schools as well, we don't have locations. We just have the South Carolina Public Charter Schools data. Anyhow, this presentation is available through our website, although I think I have to change a few parameters for access, because some of the maps that are embedded in the presentation are still set to private. Anyways, we'll talk a little bit about the effect of age cohorts and demographics on South Carolina and public school enrollments, as well as the data that we have from 2013 to 2024, and the importance of public schools for minority socioeconomic development in the state of South Carolina. We often stress that things like workforce development, access to affordable housing, poverty alleviation, and inadequate access to affordable healthcare and issues related to transportation. Just if anybody's interested, our most recent brief is about transportation, its effect primarily on African Americans in South Carolina. So I would advise everybody to go read that. It's an interesting and sort of exploratory analysis on the condition of roads and development, their effect on socioeconomic parameters, primarily for African Americans, because it's the most available data that we have across the state. But anyways, we often focus on these things and overlook the importance that I think that access to quality education and well-qualified teachers has on the development of opportunities for students as they move into their future lives as citizens of the state of South Carolina. In some cases, a lot of them end up leaving the state of South Carolina looking for opportunities elsewhere, but that's a difficult issue to tackle with research brief. But the primary thing that we wanted to look at this brief is about the changing demographics of students in the state of South Carolina and the sort of geographical distribution of those students across different districts. And we aggregated districts at the county level together. I know that some districts like Greenville County's public school district overlaps with neighboring counties to some degree, but we ended up just basically taking districts like Lexington 1, 2, 3, 4 and Lexington, Richland 5, and adding them to Lexington County and Richland 1 and 2 of Richland County, et cetera, et cetera. As we see, the state of South Carolina is aging rapidly. From 2013 to 2022, we see a huge decline in the number of people, or the share of the population that is of school age, whereas in 2013, more than 6% of the state's population was age 0 to 4, more than 6%, about 6.5% from age 5 to 9, same for 10 to 14, and a little bit higher for 15 to 19. We see that these numbers are decreasing pretty rapidly in 2022. That's the most recent data that we have. And I'm sure that the trends are continuing. This, on the one hand, is a problem for the state's future labor force, university enrollments, things of that nature. But at the same time, it also tells the story of kind of how and why demographic shifts, particularly racial and ethnic identities for public school enrollments are changing in the state of South Carolina. We see for minorities that the share of the minority population, which includes all of the groups that we cover here at CMA, as well as people that identify as two or more races and people that identify as a different race other than white or one of the other racial categories. Almost 62% will be working age within the next 10 years. That's almost 1.2 million people. And I'm sure that that number will actually grow as the state's population continues to grow. That's a huge share of the population. Another almost 600,000 minorities, 30% of that population is under the age of 20. And whereas you see for the white population, even though it's a higher number, 680,000, almost 700,000, it's only 20% of that group's population. This is going to be a huge story when it comes to, kind of to talk about the CRT bill and things of that nature. This is one of the huge issues that I think is confronting the state in the future is, are the classrooms going to represent in curriculum and adequacy and things like that? Are they going to represent the students that are taking classes that are there in them, or are they going to represent, perspectives from elsewhere? Demographics of these younger populations are more diverse than a decade ago. There were more Asian, European, Pacific Islander, African, and Latin American people that are moving in the state. And at the same time, we can observe that the rapid urbanization of certain school districts, primarily in the state's, main urban centers, Charleston area, the Midlands and Richland, Columbia and Spartanburg, Greenville and York County are rapidly urbanizing. Whereas, some of the more rural areas are losing people quickly because the structure of the population there continues to age rapidly. This presents us a few set of problems: the changing population, demographics, resource allocation, infrastructure, and pedagogic changes, workforce demands and aptitudes for people entering the workforce, as well as a few prospects that I think we can examine. That's the greater diversity of the working population in South Carolina, a more global population with connections all across the world, more plurilingual population, and hopefully if public schools continue to teach some of those skills, a technologically savvy population for future citizens. And I'm just kind of breeze through some of this data. Like I said, you can hopefully access this information pretty soon because there's just a lot of data at the different county levels. But minority public school enrollment from 2013 to 2024, we see the state's school enrollment increased 9.3% to almost 800,000, 793,000, while the minority enrollment increased nearly 22%, 22.4% to 419,000. So by 2024, minority students comprised 52.8% of the student body of all students, not just public school enrollments in South Carolina, whereas white students only comprised 47.1%. So from 2022 to 2023 alone, minority student populations increased 1.9%. And there were 87.1% of all growth in enrollments from 2023 to 2024. These changes are being driven by two separate phenomena, and it's not really apparent in that particular graph, but there's an absolute and relative decline of the white student population. That's pretty apparent, but what we don't see is the decline of the Black student populations, and we'll talk about that in a second. Finally, and what's pushing most of that growth is the explosion of the state's Hispanic and multiracial population. And that really explains why Black student enrollment is declining absolutely across the state, because we have more students that are now identifying as multiracial. And I can show some of the data. I don't think I have it in any of these slides, but when the Department of Education allowed students to identify only as one race, the Black student enrollment was about 20,000 students. When they allowed students to identify as multiracial, Obviously, there was a hit to it was basically to all the Native American, Asian American, Pacific Islander, and African American categories, but the one that it affected the most was the African American category. So that 2 or more races category appears first in the 2016 data, but it's only regularly used from 2018 onwards. In 2024, there were 9,600 fewer white students than there were from 2013. And as I said, once that 2 or more races category is included in 2016, there's negative 15,500 white students. There are 25,171 fewer Black students. And from 2016, there's negative 12,700 Black students, whereas there's 54,000 more Hispanic students. In fact, the Hispanic student population doubled, and right now it's about 108,000 of those 793,000 from 2013. At the county level, you can kind of see some of these changes. Obviously, the big counties with big urban areas are the ones with the most growth, although Charleston County has seen relative growth of only 6,000 students from 2013 to 2024. What we do find is that Charleston County is the county with the largest decline in African-American student enrollment, and negative 5,297 students from 2013 to 2024. We've talked about the reasons for this in a different brief with the analysis of gentrification in the Charleston region. But if you look next to Charleston and Dorchester County, we see the county with the most growth in African-American student enrollments, 805,000. A lot of the students from, especially North Charleston, African-Americans from North Charleston that are being displaced from higher prices, higher rent, higher property taxes, et cetera, and in more central areas of Charleston are moving to Dorchester County, amongst other places. But we also find, places where African-American student enrollment is declining quite a lot. Aiken County lost 1,020 African-American students from 2013 to 2024. And we can kind of see some of the changes in this enrollment with the structure of the number of students enrolled that are identifying as minorities in each of these counties over time. And I'll let you guys play with that later once we add it to the website. So the 6 counties that grew by more than 6,000 students are Greenville, York, Lexington, Berkeley, Horry, and Spartanburg. And then we saw 22 counties that saw minority enrollments decline, with Williamsburg and Orangeburg each declining by more than 1,000 students. Aiken County as well. Aiken County, had 1,000 African-American students decline from their enrollments, whereas this is total minority population. If we look at African-American changes, we can see that there are 5 counties where African-American student populations increased. So this black line basically determines where African-American population increased and by how much percentage. Below the black line is all negative growth for African-American populations in the state of South Carolina. And this red dotted line to the right is where total enrollment increased, and to the left is where total enrollment declined. So there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of correlation between African-American student enrollment declines and the total population, but it's not 100%. And as we can see, the Charleston is the county with the most decline. But there are a few others like Orangeburg, where we also saw, Orangeburg actually has more, 2,658 African-American students. Greenville saw 1,375 less African-American students enrolled in public schools, and Richland County also 1,473 students less. As I mentioned, a lot of those students are going to be identifying as 2 or more races, but there's also an increased enrollment in public charter schools, and African-American growth in public charter schools was 9,600, I believe. 9,673. Charleston County, as I mentioned, lost 5,300 almost African-American students. Only 4 counties, Dorchester, Berkeley, Lancaster, Lexington, saw African-American enrollments grow. The other 42 experienced declines, and you can see how those declines are organized across space. I have another map, or another graphic elsewhere, but this is one of the programs that we use, in which these maps were developed and these graphs were developed, called ArcGIS. And you can kind of play around with some of the data to see where, you know, the different differences are occurring. We see obviously Charleston County. Well, it's a little bit different here, I think, because the parameters are slightly different, because I included, this is from 2016, where we have 2 or more races included. And you can see, if we take away some of the groups, where other, you know, increases are located. I won't go into it too much because we kind of talked about it, but Hispanic student enrollment is basically up across the board. Now, there's the issue that Hispanic identity is an ethnic identity, not a racial identity, and there are quite a few. I think about 12% of the state's Hispanic population identifies also as Black. Probably mostly people from the Caribbean, Colombia, I guess maybe a few from Mexico as well. But for the most part, the patterns are continuing here with the Hispanic population, where we see a lot of growth in the big urban areas and kind of moderate growth elsewhere. But we do see 2 counties with declines in Hispanic student enrollment in Lee County and Allendale. I think there was -4 in Lee County and -8 in Allendale. So not a huge decline, but still of interest. We have Native American student enrollments, 5 counties, again, basically the same counties as African Americans, with, you know, positive student enrollment data, where the rest of the counties either had no growth or negative growth. And API, pretty similar story, although we see this huge growth of API in Lexington, York, and the other county is escaping me right now. But once again, it's a pretty similar story across the board for this urban and rural divide as far as the changes to enrollments across the state. This is that interactive plot that I just showed you, so I won't go into it too deeply. But everyone, I think, is kind of aware of the importance of a good education on socioeconomic development, stepping stones for the future, things of that nature. So improving educational attainment is the bedrock for improving socioeconomic productivity, and is the single most important factor in differentiating white and minority income disparities. It's not one-to-one. We still find that there are income disparities when we, when we adjust for age and we adjust for bachelor's degree fields and things of that nature. But the disparities between minorities that don't go on to achieve a bachelor's and above, and those that do, is a lot greater than those between minorities that have a bachelor's and above and whites that have a bachelor's and above, if that makes sense. School districts need to be equipped to handle changing demographics. And if we looked at the data about the enrollments in certain school districts, particularly the rural school districts, which are hemorrhaging students, I think those are the school districts that are going to face the most problems in securing resources for ensuring that their students are well equipped to handle changing, socioeconomic development parameters, technologies, and things of that nature. But at the same time, these are, I'm thinking of Saluda County, for instance. It's a county that in 2013, about 60% of the public students that were enrolled in public schools in Saluda County were identifying as minority, and almost 90% of them identify as African American. Now we have something like 70% of public school enrollees in Saluda County that are identifying as minority, and almost 80% of them are identifying as Hispanic. These are huge shifts in the matter of 10 years, and these are obviously things that school districts, particularly smaller rural school districts, have to deal with when a whole cohort of different socioeconomic and demographic and racial and ethnic identity changes in the brief course. Efforts should be placed to ensure that all students have access to quality school facilities with appropriate teacher to student ratios, as I said, the rural school districts need to not be left behind. We still have a lot of students in school districts that are, I guess technically classified as rural, and those students definitely need help and access to resources to ensure that they have a bright future ahead of them. Language and cultural awareness of diverse populations needs to be taken into account. This is especially true with the API, Hispanic, growing African populations in and around the major cities in the state of South Carolina. We need to ensure that new schools are properly planned and constructed. As I mentioned, the two sides of every coin, the rural school districts are hemorrhaging students, whereas the urban school districts are growing at a pace which is difficult to, ensure that all students have a proper, secure facility, or the issue with, expanding facilities on campus quickly due to adding portables and things of that nature is something that I think with proper planning can be overcome. But then you have to secure funding and think about where you're going to finance those additions. And then finally, students need to have access to state-of-the-art STEAM education with pathways to technical college certifications and a university education. A lot of the more urban school districts have these programs, and I'm sure that a lot of rural school districts do as well, but there's a huge distance sometimes between a rural high school and the technical center, maybe up to an hour or more. And then on top of that, the student might live more than an hour away from their high school. So we're talking about putting students on buses for several hours a day just to ensure that they have access to quality education. This is, I think, a difficult prospect for some people, and I think one of the main reasons why we see a growth in urban public school enrollments versus the rural areas, because I think it's kind of a hassle and there's a lack of resources available. So as I mentioned, we look to provide more data on this topic as we get it. We get this data from the South Carolina Department of Education. They add data periodically on new enrollments. So keep an eye on that. We, as I mentioned, want to have this up on the website pretty soon. There's a few issues with the formatting of the data, but I think we could probably have this up within a week or two if I have some time to get to it. But thank you very much. I don't know if you have any questions. No questions? All right. Well, I'll pass it back to Ashley then.
Well, I'm sorry, my guy. I was trying to unmute really quickly. I do have questions. That was a lot of good information. If you can hear me, everybody can hear me correctly?
I can hear you.
All right, roger that, my guy. So I was, and this is Tim Beeling. So I'm down here in Aiken County just to kind of give relevance to the demographics in the area that I'm associated with. But of course, we serve, across the state. So when you're talking about Saluda County and you're talking about Dorchester and like all of those things, like I'm super interested. But it kind of dials me back to the first slide of, the access to quality education. And I'm assuming that we have a metric that actually states what quantifies as quality education. If that, and I'll pause right there just in regards to that question, like how are we identifying the access to quality and then not having access to quality? Is it student to teacher ratio? Is it,
So I don't think that the state actually has, they have the report card system, which I guess is supposed to evaluate holistically the quality of the education at the school level and the district level. But I don't think that there's an index for the quality of the education in a district or the quality of the education. So they use things obviously like dropout rates, students' college preparedness, truancy. There's a bunch of different rates that they use to define, I guess, how good a school is, so they can give it an A, B, C, whatever the report card system says. But it doesn't seem to be generalized enough that we can apply. I'm not 100% certain that there's a very holistic approach to, analyzing schools and the quality of the education across the state. It seems to be very dependent on a bunch of factors which have nothing to do with actually the school itself, but also the socioeconomic conditions of the people that attend the school, if that makes sense.
Yep. No, it does, man. I won't hog the meeting. I'll just let you know I'm definitely interested. I'll get with Ashley. We'll talk offline. I'm super interested in this information for sure. I appreciate you sharing.
For sure. And I would say that the state's Department of Education, they publish it, and I need to get access to more of the years that they have, but they do publish their kind of data set on all the schools and their enrollments, the test scores, and things of that nature. I just think that some of the metrics that they use, I wouldn't define them as quality, but I do know the head researcher at the Commission for Education Oversight that's looking to create a better metric for analyzing schools, and he's very interested in reducing some of, I would say it's kind of a racial bias that's inherent in some of the ways that school report cards are generalized. But yeah, it's an interesting project, and I actually have to talk. I'm talking with him today, so maybe I'll ask him a question about that.
Absolutely. No, that'd be great, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fenton, for providing us with that really great knowledge and all of those data points. I feel like that is essential. That information is essential to what we do here at CMA. So thank you so much. And of course, with Dr. DaCosta wanting us to move more into a research-based organization, I feel like the work that you and your team do is very vital. So thank you. We don't have any other presentations. I didn't know if anyone else on the call wanted to give any updates about their organization or anything that's going on in their program areas. We have a few minutes if anyone wanted to provide any updates.
Ashley, could we take this moment for you to introduce your new advisory committee member?
Yes, Sharice,
Okay.
thank you. Yes. So I do want to introduce our new advisory committee member, Mr. Tim Billing. He was actually the one that was just speaking and with Dr. Fenton. So Tim, if you kind of want to introduce yourself, give us a little more information about your organization and all of the great work that you are doing down in Aiken County.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Super honored to be on the committee. Super honored to be in this space. I know it's virtual, and I know, unfortunately, I don't have my camera on right now, but I am very, very attentive to the meeting. Just in regards to the work that we're doing, I'm actually on the road, taking some of our students to Charleston, South Carolina, for some of their outreach and things that they're interested in for their end of the year class trip. But to dial it back, the connection between myself, the work I do in this committee is through the nonprofit organization that I founded back in 2015. So we're almost about 10 years old, serving high school students primarily through our leadership development, college readiness, career readiness, workforce development. But of course, holistically providing access to them to have a platform of support, en route to becoming the leader and the active citizen that they hope to become. We actually start them in regards to, program pathways as early as 13 years old. They come to us as rising ninth graders out of their 8th grade year, and they stay with us until they graduate grades 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And from that standpoint, they're always enrolled in our program through our alumni association as well. But primarily, again, it's an extracurricular, non-traditional, educational organization that partners with school districts, community, and parents to ensure that our students down here in Aiken County, specifically the CSRA, as well as surrounding counties, if you look at Edgefield, if you look at Saluda, as well as Barnwell, then we do our best to make sure that they have access to the resources and the curriculums that they need to hopefully, check that box and stamp of approval to be college and career ready after they graduate from high school, whatever route they want to do. We've had students go off to the military. We've had students go off into entrepreneurship. We've had students go off to the workforce. And ultimately, of course, we've had students go off and get that 2, 4, or 6 year degree and beyond. If they so do choose to do that. In our organization, Success Team Foundation for Youth Development, we just try to make sure that we're helping them and partnering with all of our community organizations to ensure that they're ready for that. Absolutely.
Did we have anyone else who maybe wanted to give any updates about anything that's going on in their organizations, or any of our other program areas wanted to give any updates? All right, well, this concludes our meeting. Let me just double check the schedule. Yep, so this concludes our meeting. Thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to attend our meeting. Our next meeting will be in September. I'll get that date to you guys shortly after this meeting. And I'll also provide you with the presentations from today, as well as the flyers regarding the business summit, and then the research brief by Dr. Fitton. I'll send that out in an email as well.
Thank you so much, Ashley.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.